everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about Survivor season 42, the merge episode. So exciting. So my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and this podcast is not sponsored by Applebee's, even though we wish it was.
Alas, I know Alyssa and I we'll talk about it, but I laughed out loud when Jeff was like Applebee's for the merge feast because Alyssa and I, after Karishma's famous saying of how Applebee's is her favorite sit-down restaurant, we actually did a video on this channel where we went to Applebee's and tried the stuff that they ordered for the show.
And, just a summary, the brownie that they had, amazing. The Shark Bowl drink, not as amazing as you would think. So, that's our mini Applebee's review before we get into our actual review of the Survivor episode.
Yeah, check out that video if you wanted to see the food. The dessert was good. Like sometimes I just think about that dessert. It's really good.
Yeah.
So, overall thoughts of this episode, I thought this was a really fun merge episode. Minus the hourglass twist, can't really change much about that. But overall, I thought it was really fun because we got to see so many relationships forming and people talking to each other. Like, if this were just a regular 12-person merge without all of the twists and stuff, we would have seen all of this great forming of relationships, cross-tribal alliances. Like, it was so fun to see.
I feel like I liked the hourglass twist better this time than I did last time. But the real reason that I feel like this merge episode succeeded was because they did the 2 hours back to back rather than doing what they did last season, where they had 1 hour and then we had to wait a whole week for Erica's decision, even though it was a pretty obvious decision. So I feel like this merge episode was a lot better because there was actually continuity and you understood what was happening and why it was happening.
Yeah, exactly. Like we talked about it so much last season with this stupid cliffhanger that they stuck between the merge episode last time. So at least they heard that, even though Jeff wouldn't have even heard anyone's thoughts because, like Jeff says, they filmed it back to back. So they wouldn't have heard people's thoughts of why would they cut this episode in half. So it's cool to see them get the programming for CBS for this 2 hour slot and then push back beyond the edge.
Yeah, I just feel like it works so much better that way. And I guess hopefully that means that they understood that what they did last time was bad and they just couldn't fix it because of CBS. So,
yeah, but we'll talk more about the hourglass twist when we get there in the episode. This episode was also interesting because I think like last week or 2 weeks ago we were talking about this, but it seems to be that the Reddit sleuths were correct. So we were saying on Reddit, people were thinking, hey, Lydia is not getting a lot of confessionals because she might be the merge boot. The production, they didn't want to edit Lydia to be such a great character because then we'd be so sad or mad that she would go home in this spot at the merge, which after watching the merge episode, I could sort of see between Jonathan, Marianne, and Lydia up for elimination. We're sort of like, oh, Lydia, we don't know her as much because she didn't get edited up. She hasn't had that many confessionals, but Jonathan and Marianne seem to be production's fan favorites. So it's like, oh, the lesser of two evils. Oh, we love Jonathan. We love Marianne. So, oh, Lydia can go home because she wasn't edited as much. So, in the viewers' perspectives, it's like, okay, we like Jonathan. We like Marianne. We don't know Lydia. So, lesser of two evils, we're okay with her going home.
and I feel like it's one of those things too where I forget who went home at the merge last time, but I feel
Sydney.
like Sydney. And Sydney was such a character that I feel like people got more upset that such a great character got screwed over. So maybe they learned when editing 42, even if they didn't learn anything about the twist itself, maybe they learned how to edit the twist better so people wouldn't be as upset about it.
Which sort of sucks. Like, if you're in Lydia's situation, oh, to be under edited because you go home because of an idol or because of a twist. And so editors don't want to get you or the fans mad if like, oh, Lydia's my favorite person, she's so great, and then she gets voted out because of a twist like this, people would be typing their angry messages on Twitter at Jeff and at CBS. So it just sort of sucks for Lydia's experience that she would be under edited because, you know, she's fun, she makes a lot of really funny tweets on Twitter, so it's like she's got a personality. They just didn't show it.
Yeah, and I feel like we get that every time in Survivor. Like, there's always at least one castaway that gets screwed over. So I guess it sucks that it was Lydia this time.
Yeah, it's sort of also weird, like, all the young people are RIP this season, so we got Zach going home early, Swati going home early, and now Lydia. Those were the people who are 19, 21, 22. So the three youngest people this season were voted out pre-jury. Compared to last season, you know, we had Xander and Liana, who are like 2021, making it quite far into the game. So I thought that was interesting to compare, like the three quote, you know, young people here. The next youngest person would be Marianne at 24. So I don't know. I just thought it's interesting. Like the college age students got voted out so early this season compared to last season.
And I feel like it wasn't even anything to do with like, oh, their age specifically, like put them at a disadvantage. I think they just like weren't as good socially as the other people on their tribe. So like maybe that is something to do with age, the fact that they like couldn't create social bonds with other people in their tribe. But yeah, like you said, Marianne is the next oldest, and I feel like she and Tori, who I think is the next oldest after Marianne, because I think she's 25. They're both kind of like on the outs. Both of their names were mentioned as like possibilities to go home. So like, I don't know. I think it's kind of refreshing to see, I guess, like reverse ageism, where it's like, you know,
it does seem like this is an older skewed cast when we did like the cast assessment tribe reactions. Like, you know, there's more like late 20s, early 30s as like quote older cast versus, oh, these are all people aged 22 to 28, which, you know, a couple years ago that was the case where it's all like the Instagram models and stuff that are out there, all of the really attractive young people, but now it's like quote older is early 30s. So there's definitely a big difference from when you're in college to when you're post grad, like what we're experiencing. And then after post grad, you know, if you're starting to get married and have kids and stuff, there's definitely a big difference between those milestones of your age.
yeah, definitely. So I guess it's interesting to see how that kind of plays out. I think it will maybe continue to play out throughout the season because, like I mentioned, Marianne and Tori are kind of both on the outs. So we'll have to see.
But for Confessionals, it's like an episode 6 and 7 combined as the merge, so it wasn't like, oh, just episode 6 that this is counted as. But for the most confessionals right now, we have Hai and Mike at 23. The least confessionals is Lindsay at 10.
I think that is consistent with, you know, the way that we've seen this story play out. Honestly, when you said before we started that Lindsay had 10 confessionals, I could not recall a single thing that she said. So I feel like it's definitely one of those things where Lindsay is not a super important character in this season's arc. So sucks to suck.
Yeah, sucks. Similar like what we're saying about Lydia, sucks to just be so under edited. That's why I also thought, hey, you know, if Jonathan and Marianne aren't going home this time, I could see Lindsay being voted out here because she hasn't really been edited much into the show, similar to people thinking Lydia not getting confessionals means she might go in this kind of spot. Since Lindsay made it past, maybe she's going to get idled out or something, and then they don't want people to be angry about it.
Yeah, that's also a possibility. I feel like I don't know, the characters that are getting edited, I feel like are getting like more well-rounded stories than they did last season. Because I feel like we have more people getting like more well-rounded content than we did last season. But also the ones that aren't getting edited still really aren't getting edited. Like I wonder if there's more of like a disparity this season in confessional counts than there was last season. So
I guess something to look at post season 42. That would be interesting to see if editing is better or if it's still sort of good for the main characters that they pick, like the winner and some important, interesting people, and then bad for everyone else.
Yeah.
But we start off this episode, we see some tribe dynamics before we go into the merge. We see Mike saying that he will never trust Chanel again because Chanel split the vote last week and put one vote on Mike in the case of the shot in the dark working for Daniel. And Mike, in a funny confessional, says he would take a bullet for Hai and Lydia, but he would step to the side if, like, for Chanel, which was funny because Mike also wrote down Chanel's name. So it's like he's so mad at Chanel, but he did the same thing to her.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is like Mike wrote down Chanel as part of like a tribe plan, whereas Chanel just wrote down Mike to save her own ass. And I feel like Mike's thing is like Chanel could have easily written down anyone else's name, but she specifically chose to target Mike. And so it's kind of like, well, why do you choose specifically to target me? Like, what did I do to you? So it's kind of like beef.
Yeah, which isn't really good for Chanel going into the merge because then when we get to the merge, Chanel seemingly on the outs, her original green team is throwing her under the bus left and right, similar to the blue team. We see Tori bothering Roxroy, asking him a bunch of questions. Roxroy is like, stop asking me a bunch of questions, stop following me around. And then we see coming into the merge that her original blue team is throwing Tori under the bus, saying that she tells the secrets to everyone.
Yeah, I feel like this was just everyone throwing everyone under the bus. I feel like everyone wanted the merge tribe to be on like their side of the conflict. So that was interesting because I feel like we saw a lot of bus throwing this episode.
I thought it was so funny how this theme of Tori and Roxroy disliking each other just played out through the entire episode, for him getting sent to exile, for him choosing to hit the hourglass or not. It always came back to their beef with each other. And I don't know, they need to go on like a rival season of some show where they have to be partnered together. I think that'd be good TV because they just fight over nothing. It seems like they just don't gel together. So then they have this weird beef with each other and they're like both living in each other's heads rent free, like Confessionals, just bringing up that person. It's just so funny, this arc line, this storyline of them fighting with each other.
And like you said, it's over absolutely nothing. Like I feel like it's one of those things where they both could like just play nice with each other if they really wanted to, but they seem to have gotten so deep under each other's skin. It's like it's almost funny how like you said, how much they live rent free in each other's heads.
Yeah, like they just have vendettas out for each other. I need to see them. I don't know. Do they need to do like a Rivals Amazing Race season or something? I don't think Roxroy would go on the challenge, but like the challenge has Rivals seasons where they pair two people that don't like each other up together and then they're forced to work with each other. They need to do that for the Amazing Race or something and send Tori and Roxroy out to see like if they can get along or if they'll still be so like disliking on each other, so dysfunctional together.
Honestly, I would love to see them just continue to be at each other's throats because I feel like my ideal like scenario for them is they eventually upgrade to like bickering married couple where like they still don't like each other but they somehow manage to work together and then they hate each other after again.
Oh my gosh, the enemies to lovers archetype. Do you read those kinds of books?
I do not, but you know, I'm aware of it. I don't think I want them to be lovers. I'm thinking more like enemies to allies.
Yeah,
So
yeah. In the romance book, it's enemies to lovers, but for Survivor, they can be enemies to allies. That's got a nice ring to it.
yeah.
So this sets up for the merge. We're seeing Chanel and Tori on the outs, but then by the end of like the immunity challenge, basically, we see Chanel and Tori both safe, which I thought was cool because it's always fun when the person that is the person that's set up to go home, oh, Chanel's on the out, oh, Tori is on the outs, let's vote them out. When those people get safe from this twist or by winning individual immunity, it's exciting for the episode because then the team can't just do a straightforward vote. So it's cool that they both became safe because it was setting it up for to be like such an easy vote to just vote one of them out.
Yeah, like it could have been one of those things where like one of them ended up safe and so you knew that the other was going out by default. Like, I feel like if Tori hadn't won immunity, then she was almost certainly going home. So, yeah, that was fun.
So we go into this first reward slash immunity challenge, technically, but technically not even immunity challenge because it's the hourglass twist. So this was just so funny, weird. Jeff is talking to the camera again and he says, "It's going to be a fun day." And I was like, "Jeff, is it? Is it really?"
Jeff's idea of fun and mine, I feel like, are not very compatible.
Yeah, and then he goes on talking to the camera saying, "Hey, we switched up 3 things this episode because we heard your feedback from last time." But no. Did they really? They didn't hear the viewers' feedback. They heard Danny and season 41's feedback, but then they didn't even change the right 3 things, I feel like. Because they didn't change the most fundamental thing of Jeff saying you're immune and then taking away immunity or safety. I felt like that was Danny's biggest gripe with the hourglass twist last season.
I feel like the big thing that did like work better was that Jeff did give them like some sort of indication that like there would be something like fishy going on. Like I feel like in season 41 it definitely was portrayed as like, oh, this person's just going to exile, nothing special is going to happen. And so I feel like Drea, I think it was Drea, was like, well, what if this exact specific scenario happens? And then it did happen. So I feel like the players kind of like had the opportunity to think about that more than they did when it was a case of just like thinking that Erica was just on exile.
That's true. I think that one twist or one change here was more helpful because it sort of allows the people to strategize around it. And it seems like from like Lydia's exit interviews, it is the case that the people guessed it on the island afterwards. So like we were saying, oh, if this team's safe, we'll vote Chanel. If the other team is safe, we'll vote Tori. We have one person that we don't want around in each team. So that's good. So it's like they could strategize around it. But I feel like they should change the wording where Jeff is saying, hey, orange team, you are immune, you are safe. So I feel like for that 5-10 minutes that you're standing on the mat after you've won that challenge, you're probably pumped up with adrenaline. You're thinking about Applebee's coming up. You're not really going to think, oh, Jeff is saying this person is going to make a big thing happen. They have a big decision. Are you really, really sure that you don't want to send one of yourselves to go there? I feel like when you're on that mat, you're not going to necessarily think, hey, I might not be immune by sending Roxroy to exile. Maybe I should go there. But I feel like we saw Drea back at camp, she clocked it, she figured it out because I feel like you can't think of, all of the possibilities of what this twist is when you're standing there right after winning the challenge. Like, no one is going to give up Applebee's if they think they're just going to get an idol at exile.
I think it's interesting though because Jonathan, I feel like, was the only person on the winning team who got to explain why he specifically did not go to exile, even knowing that there was going to be like some power stuff going on. And I feel like that maybe made him seem like not the best of the winning team, but he definitely got to explain himself more than anyone else on the winning team did, which I feel like is good for Jonathan. Like, I wasn't particularly worried about him going home just because I feel like if you're looking at it from an Edric perspective, Jonathan getting to explain himself and his reasoning is like a really good thing.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, I don't really follow Edgic that much. Usually Alyssa tells me what's up and what's happening there. So when I saw that on the episode, I was like, oh, maybe they're setting up Jonathan to get the like goofy edit. He should have actually went to exile. What a dumb move for Jonathan's point. Now he's going to get voted out because he wanted to eat food, which Jonathan, I think, choosing to stay and not go makes a lot of sense because it's like he is freaking huge. He talks about how much he eats with like the 18 eggs, slices of cheese, and grits every day. Like he's literally needing to eat probably 10,000 calories, which is like 2,000 is a normal for regular people. So he has this huge diet. And we've seen so many times like these big muscular guys, like the ex-pro athletes, stuff like that, fall off pre-merge because they don't get those calories that they're so used to. So it makes sense that he would want to fill up on calories since he hasn't been eating.
Yeah, and I guess it's just from an epic perspective, you really want to look at whether or not something makes someone seem dumb or makes them just seem like they're explaining their bad
Mm.
choices. And I feel like sometimes like you can really tell when someone's getting the dodo edit because they'll play like the dumb music behind them or whatever. But it's like Jonathan gave a valid reason for making this poor choice or like poor choice depending on who you ask. So I feel like that's one of the things that edgically is good for you. Like you want to be able to explain your thought process. You want to be able to like talk about why you're doing what you're doing. So yeah.
That's true. I think the big issue with the hourglass is the whole changing of the rules thing, saying that you're safe and then taking that safety away. Sort of like Danny was talking about last season, similar to this season. Jeff continuously said, "You're winning immunity. You are safe for this first tribal." I just think you shouldn't be playing for immunity at this challenge because you're changing the rules. Like Jeff can't just say you're safe and then, oh, freaking hourglass, we turn back time. Like you can't just do that. You're changing the rules after the game has already started. It's like playing a board game and then you're just making up rules as you go kind of thing. So I feel like that's where you get into the crux of the issue where what's to say that Jeff can't just take away your immunity for any random thing in the future? It's sort of, you can never be truly safe even with immunity.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like it's one of those things where like people pick up on like the little ways that Jeff changes the phrases. Like Mike asking like, "Oh, is this the merge or not?" And so I feel like it's one of those things where if they want to make it a surprise, they have to, not say anything, which is bad. But,
Yeah, like I think like we were talking about last week, a way to fix it. I just don't think you should play for immunity or safety at this first challenge. Maybe you're just playing to go to the reward to get the merge feast. So it's like 5 people win the food, 5 people don't. They still get that like split of the winners and the losers here, but it's not Jeff saying, "Winning team, you are immune. You don't have to participate at tribal. You don't have to get voted out at tribal, but you can still vote at tribal. Like you guys are safe." Instead of saying that, just say, "Hey, y'all are playing for the food reward. You are playing for the merge feast. And 2 people are left out. And then the twist, maybe the person that gets sent to exile gets to pick 6 people that are safe. Or the person that gets sent to exile is either safe or not safe. Not having them hit the hourglass gives them safety because, like we said last season, there's literally no reason for you to ever not hit the hourglass. You're always going to do it because then you are safe. Like these people merged on day 12, less than 2 weeks. You're not going to become lifelong best buddies with these people, willing to give up your game for someone else, really, in 12 days. So it doesn't really make sense that the exile person's safety hinges on hitting the hourglass or not, because they're always going to hit the hourglass. You have to either make them safe or not safe, but don't make it hinge on the hourglass, or let them pick 6 safe people or not 6 safe people. Don't make it hinge on the winners of the challenge.
the thing is, I feel like when you say make them pick 6 safe people, do you mean like hand picking? Because that would just be a disaster. But
It's not in our pay grade. The production needs to figure that out.
yeah, I totally agree that it shouldn't hinge on whether or not they're safe. Because it's like maybe if Roxroy was safe, he still would have like hit the hourglass just to fuck over Tori. And I feel like that's the kind of thing that like creates more interesting drama. Because if Roxroy is safe no matter what, then he has to justify himself to everyone that he just made unsafe. And like the justification of like, "Oh, I wanted to be safe," I feel like is something that no one can argue with. And so they need to,
Exactly. No one can be pissed off at Roxroy or Erica for hitting the hourglass because it's like you have the easy out. You say, "Hey, I needed safety. Like, I'm doing this for my family. I need the money. I want to win this game. I want to be safe," kind of thing. But if Roxroy were already safe just for being sent to exile, then he switched it on the orange team, Tori's group, then they'd be like, "WTF, Roxroy?" Like, then you'd really have to show your cards, and Roxroy might say, "Hey, sorry, Tori, like, I don't like you. I wanted to save Drea and Romeo on the losing team, so that's why I hit the hourglass." But, like, you wouldn't really say that because that's showing too much of your cards, but you'd have to come up with a better lie or fake thing to tell people, which might make people mad at you. But like this, everyone was like, oh, Roxroy, we don't blame you for anything. It's such a hard decision. Like, obviously, Roxroy is going to hit it for safety.
Yeah. So I hope that they don't do the hourglass again for 43 and 44, but if they do, I think there needs to be even more tweaking done. Like this was
I
slightly better than last season, but not by much.
Oh my gosh, we're just being like Stockholm syndromed into thinking this is a good twist. If it just keeps happening, everyone will think, oh, you know, it wasn't as bad as 41, so we like it now. But Jeff says the other two things, so they switched, saying, hey, we're telling the people who's you're going to get such a big power. And then the second thing that they switched was that the winning team could also switch and go to exile. Last season, oh, it was Oling Erica or Nasir that could be sent. So now they have the choice to send one of themselves to go there. And the biggest twist of all, Alyssa, was that the merge feast was no longer just random food, but it was Applebee's.
Applebee's, my favorite sit down restaurant.
Oh my gosh. Jeff's explaining of Applebee's. He's like, that's home. It's so hard to turn down. Everyone was screaming for Applebee's, which I get, you know, when you're starving out there, I'd be screaming too. Like, it's just so funny.
Yeah, I think it's funny because just you can tell how much like product promotion they slipped in because they were like, I love Applebee's. And it's not just like generally being excited about food, it's being excited about Applebee's specifically. And it was cute. I always think it's funny whenever they like do the product promo type stuff because it's so obvious, but they're always so earnest about it.
If I ever went on any of these like reality shows, I would, if there is some kind of product placement, or I would be like Marianne and just give the most outrageous reactions to every single thing happening. Like Marianne is just so excited for everything happening, even if it's something that maybe you shouldn't be as excited for. So I'd be like, I'd sort of want it'd be funny to make just outrageous reactions to everything.
That's the way to get more screen time, man.
That's true. Marianne knows. She wants to get the screen time. So we go into this merge challenge. The orange tribe is Jonathan, Lydia, Marianne, Hai, and Tori. The blue tribe is Drea, Romeo, Mike, Omer, and Chanel. The people that got the gray rocks were Lindsay and Roxroy. And like we said last week in our predictions, whoever's on Jonathan's team wins. And the orange team did win with Jonathan's team.
Yeah, we're so shocked. Like, I feel like just looking at like some of the tasks that they have to do, what Survivor really needs to do is design immunity challenges in such a way that having one strong person doesn't automatically mean that you're going to like beast mode it. Because like the like difficult parts of this immunity challenge were the like the the like ball part and then the human ladder part. And that's when you have Jonathan who can literally lift everyone.
It's automatically unfair. Jonathan counts as like 10 people. Like last season, regular people, the tribe split was a little bit uneven with the rock draw, but here Jonathan counts as like 10 people. They got star power bonus here to just make them like plus 10 in power points there. I thought it was interesting, like wild. Jonathan and Marianne were doing this challenge barefoot. I was like, WTF? Everyone else was wearing shoes. I'd be so afraid my little toesies would get run over by the boulder.
Yeah, just like I don't want to break my toe doing this. Also, you never know, like maybe this is just like a me experience, but sometimes like walking through the sand on the beach, there's suddenly a really sharp rock and you're like, what the fuck?
Or
So
the sand is really hot. Like, you know,
yeah.
sometimes you need to be wearing flip flops on the sand because it burns the bottom of your feet. It's
I
insane.
guess
They those
Jonathan doesn't have any problems with that because he's a superhero.
Yeah, I'm like, Jonathan and Marianne must have some really good feet to be able to walk and like do all of that stuff barefoot. I'd be so scared of stepping on something or like getting my toes crushed or someone just stepping on your foot by accident. Like, that hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Jonathan in the challenge also, he gets the intro music behind him when he is climbing up the tower and helping his tribe mates climb up the tower. I was like, dang, they just love Jonathan so much. He's so physically strong that they literally put the intro music behind him. That is a feat.
Also, I feel like he's been called like 100 positive names in this episode alone. Like he gets called Goliath. He gets this whole segment of people talking about how he looks like a superhero. Like everyone, this was a really Jonathan positive episode. And it's like getting to the point where it seems like he might be like the decoy winner. So
it could be. He seems to have a really, really good social game. Like everyone we saw High say, "Oh, I'm intimidated by him," but that's not going to stop me from working with him. Mike, everyone just got man crushes on him.
I feel like it's one of those things where like Jonathan says something to the effect of like I want my social game to carry me through. And I feel like he really like walked the walk in this episode. Like he had some really genuine connections with other people.
That's true. So with the orange team, we see Lydia and Marianne on the puzzle, which this makes me feel even more bad for Lydia that like she and Marianne rocked that puzzle. They didn't let their lead go to waste and they were able to finish that 75-piece puzzle for their team and win the challenge for their orange team, thinking, "Oh, I made the merge, I made the jury because I won the challenge. We're safe." Like, it's just extra sucky. Lydia is on the puzzle, and then to have it all taken away because of the hourglass.
Yeah, yeah. I did notice that they kind of put in some more of the like Marianne and Jonathan beef, not just in this episode, but like when Marianne was doing the puzzle, Jonathan said something to the effect of like, "Oh, you should like do something else so that you're prepared when like Lydia finishes with that section." And Marianne was just like, "No, I'm not going to do that," even though it was a perfectly reasonable suggestion. So I feel like their conflict is definitely going to come to a head soon.
Get them on a rival season. If they're actually beefing like Tori and Roxroy, that except then Jonathan would win every single thing on if he's on the challenge or something. But it's funny. Everyone was cheering, "Oh my gosh, Jonathan's on our team. This is so great. Let's win Applebee's." But actually being on Jonathan's team was a curse because of the hourglass twist. And then we see Drea. She is having trouble getting up the boulder. And maybe it's a big brain technique because she clocked the hourglass twist after they got back to camp. Maybe she purposefully went a little bit slow so that her team would lose.
I feel like that is a very, very generous reading of what happened.
Yeah, it's probably not. But imagine if it were, though, like she big brained it so much that she clocked production and was like, "We're probably going to get safety because of this twist," and then went slow.
Yeah, obviously, that is what she thought. So,
But Orange Team wins. I was really, really surprised that they sent Rox right away. I really thought Jonathan and Marianne on the winning team would push for Lindsay to go to exile, especially because Jeff kept saying there's a big twist, there's a big advantage. Like, Jonathan, Marianne, and Lindsay are all from the same original Orange team. Why would they all three go on this reward to get Applebee's? I would have thought they would have sent one of them, Lindsay, to go to exile to split up their numbers.
I wonder if part of it is no one wanted to like volunteer for themselves and make themselves look more power hungry. Because like Marianne already has an idol that I guess is like probably public knowledge based on like how it's talked about later in the episode. Jonathan talked about like why he didn't want to go. So I guess the question is really like why didn't they send Lindsay? But again, that might have been one of those things where they don't want to betray how close their tribe is, so they don't want to be like, "Oh, send Lindsay because she's a part of our group or whatever." So
yeah, I guess it's what we thought last season. We were like, why didn't the winning team send Nasir? Because the winning team had like 3-4 original Luvu with like Danny, Deshawn, Sydney, like they were all there. Like, why didn't they send Nasir to exile? Because they wanted to throw challenges to vote Erica out, kind of thing. So it's similar here. Like, why wouldn't they send Lindsay to go? Maybe Tori was really pushing back because she kept on saying, "Yeah, I didn't want Roxroy at the Applebee's reward because I wanted to enjoy it. I wanted to throw him under the bus," which we saw happening. Like she's telling all of the dirty laundry from Original Blue. So maybe someone pushed back and was like, "No, let's send Roxroy to exile."
I bet it was Tori.
So Roxroy gets sent away, and he has this confessional saying, maybe Tori sent me out here to weaken me. So it's just, they really live in each other's heads so rent free. Like every single confessional mentions the other person.
Yeah. So I do wonder what that means for like them in the future, because whenever two people's stories are tied together, it's not a good thing for them, because it's like if your only like point of interest is like, oh, I have beef with this person once that other person is gone, it's like, bye.
That's true. Then you lose your storyline. So Roxroy goes to the Exile Island. He gets this choice. I feel like this is Roxroy's breakout episode. Like in all of the season thus far, in all of the secret scenes, even we've been shown as a viewer, and it's been edited in the way showing Roxroy as being super bossy at camp, being annoying to his tribe. And so, as the viewer, that's what we're seeing of him. But then he really, really thrives when he's out here all alone. Like he is having the best time out here all alone. So it's interesting to see how like editing and production can change your perception of a player, because it's like you just show, oh, the negatives of one person and then people don't like him, but oh, that's just like 10% of their personality. And then you have, oh, the 90% that's like Roxroy is soaking this all in, taking all of this adventure in and living for the moment kind of thing. And it's like that part isn't shown. So it's so interesting what editing can do.
Yeah. But I feel like it's also one of those things where you could argue that it's almost a negative for Roxroy that he was shown to be like most at peace when he was on his own, because like he's already been shown to have problems with his social skills. And so this might be a further like pointing towards like, oh, Roxroy like isn't really good at making social connections. Like maybe he'll get to the end, but no one will vote for him because like no one really knows that much about him or likes him that much.
Could be, when we talk about the vote, him being in the majority alliance, but voting in this weird way at tribal council. And in this breakouts part of the Exile Island, we also see Roxroy talk about his vision. He climbs to the top of the mountain, exerts all of his energy to get up there to watch the sunset. And then he's talking about his vision, having keratoconus. And so I thought it was really like such a wholesome scene. He's soaking in the experience and just like taking it all in, seeing the sights and, you know, like living every day to its fullest.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, so like we mentioned, of course, Roxroy is going to break the hourglass. There's no real reason not to break it. Like, it's day 12, and he doesn't know anyone besides the original Blue Team people that he started the show with. So it's like, it's not like you know anyone that you're going to save them or not save them, really. So it does seem like Roxroy did choose to break the hourglass, one, to save himself, but also to save Drea and Romeo because they were on the losing team. And his beef with Tori too, probably wanted to break the hourglass so Tori would be up for elimination. So it's a win-win-win all around for Roxroy.
Honestly, yeah.
And no lose here. So we go to the immunity challenge. This was funny. You know, Roxroy says, I broke the hourglass, you know, we're all safe. Tori is like so mad. Like, we sent you away, Roxroy, as a gift. We wanted you to get this reward, this advantage. We sent you away as a gift. And I was like, the mental gymnastics here are just so mental gymnasticy.
Yeah, Tori really was something.
Yeah, it really reminds me of like people who cheat on their partners and then they say, "Oh, I cheated on you as a gift for you so I could realize how much I truly care about you and how committed I am to you." Like, it's just so backwards.
Side note, have you seen the Netflix TV show The Ultimatum?
Yes, that's what it reminded me of.
Yes. Okay. If you guys haven't watched The Ultimatum, it's crazy. Reality TV is always going to be a little crazy. But anyways,
But
back to
yeah,
this.
it happens like in real life in that kind of scenario. It happens in the ultimatum too. Like, have you seen the whole thing or
Yeah.
okay, me too, but it's like the partners there are like, yeah, you know, I'm texting other women or I'm texting other men, I'm kissing other women or men because I wanted to see how much I love you. And I'm like, that's just so what?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I feel like everyone knew that this was BS because Tori didn't like Roxroy enough to like make that a thing. So
Yeah, Tori's not sending you away as a gift or reward for you. Like, Tori sent you away so she could, badmouth you at the Applebee's.
obviously.
So, the immunity challenge, they have to smell immunity while balancing blocks on the table stand. Tori wins. And so, this really foils the Tori or Chanel plans that everyone wanted on who to vote out, which makes the episode interesting because between Lindsay, Marianne, Jonathan, Hai, and Lydia, now the losing team, like there's no really clear person to vote out. There's no person that everyone really, really dislikes. So, it makes the episode more interesting.
Yeah, I always like it when there's not a straightforward like way to go, just because that is when you get like cool strategy and people having to like use their brains and stuff.
That's true. So Lydia gets this confessional after the challenge right before this commercial break. And this is the death knell. It's you never want this confessional right before commercial break.
Yeah, I felt bad for her because also like I think we kind of mentioned how like oh getting more visibility for Lydia probably means she's going home, and that's exactly what happened. So
Yeah, which is sad because we see an 8-person alliance form, which is like the more physical people of the season, the people with all of the advantages as well, besides Marianne. But the 8 is Jonathan, Lindsay, Omer, Drea, Roxroy, Hai, Lydia, and Mike. With the amulet holders are all here, Lindsay, Hai, and Drea. The idols here, Drea and Mike, minus Marianne, and then Drea here with an extra vote. So I thought this like Alpha Alliance was really, really fascinating to see form because I feel like so many times the stronger players, not just strong physically, but the people that are better at the game, always try to target each other. They want to create opposing factions, they want to get numbers on their side to go after the other person. So it's like, oh, the Hai versus Omer would be in charge of an alliance and Hai would be in charge of an alliance, and they would go against each other rather than all teaming up here in like this Super 8 alliance.
yeah, this Super 8 alliance is really interesting because I feel like they will definitely fracture pretty quickly. Like they literally fractured on the first vote, but it's interesting to see them like not explicitly against each other from the beginning.
Yeah, it's like usually you got like some big dogs on one side, some big dogs on the other, and then they're trying to bring in the middle people here. So it's cool to see all of them clump up together. And I thought it was great this episode. We also see Hai, Jonathan, and Mike having really, really good social games, bonding with different people, talking about their lives and stuff like that. So definitely those three were highlighted and like talking about stuff about them, and Omer too, but also Omer in the strategic sense that we'll get to later.
Yeah, so that's a fun one.
Yeah. With this 8 alliance, I thought it was interesting that Drea brought in Roxroy over Romeo. So, like, everyone in this 8, they're like, oh, I'm close with this person, I'm close with that person, let's bring them in. And Drea says she's close with Roxroy, let's bring Roxroy into the 8. And so I was thinking, maybe because this is like the alpha big alliance, the stronger physical people here, Romeo, if you're looking at him, doesn't necessarily fit into with like the other athletic people. So maybe that's why Drea said, hey, let me bring Roxroy into this instead. And maybe Drea is trying to hide her closeness with Romeo rather than saying, hey, Romeo and I are 1-2, let me bring him into the Alpha Alliance. Instead, she's sending him to go like get close with the other people, and then maybe they can come together later.
I do think it's also interesting just because Roxroy and Drea, I feel like weren't actually that close. So it would be kind of like inviting like one of your like friendly acquaintances to an exclusive party. Like, why are you doing this? You could have just left Roxroy out, especially because you didn't need 8. Because you
And
merged.
they were sort of targeting each other too, Drea and Roxroy. So it's
Like, I guess maybe 8 makes it easier. That way you have some wiggle room if someone decides to flip. But like, to have a majority of 12, you only need 7. So
yeah. And I feel like if I were in Drea's shoes, like I would want to bring someone from my OG blue team into this group because it's like 3 orange, 3 green, 2 blue right now. So it's like you wouldn't want to be 3-3-1 blue. Like you'd want a buddy there, even if you're not necessarily close to them. So you're inviting your acquaintance to the party in Roxroy. So like I can see that just based on numbers, you'd want him there. And like she's not going to bring Tori into the Alpha Alliance, and Romeo can't go in either. So it makes sense in that sense that, hey, let me bring Roxroy in, even if they aren't necessarily that close. But maybe they patched things up because Roxroy said Romeo and Drea are his 1-2.
Yeah, but I feel like Roxroy doesn't really have that many choices, so.
Yeah, and he was gone for 2 days, so good for him being invited to this alliance that he wasn't even there for the creation of, versus other people who were there for those 2 days while he was at exile, like Chanel. There was 2 funny scenes where Chanel like walks up to this group and then everyone left, and it was so awkward.
Yeah, it's like they really couldn't think of anything to do other than be like, so you want to go fishing?
Which I'm like, I don't know, it's so reminding of like, I don't know, school, like high school, where it's like you have your friend group and then the one friend that you don't really like, and then they always come over, which is so mean.
I also wonder if Lydia failing to lie to Chanel about like the big alliance was part of the reason that led to her downfall.
Yeah, I guess she didn't really mention that in like the Rob exit interview, but maybe in future things we'll see if Chanel gets voted out. Maybe we can talk and see, and she can say stuff about that. But yeah, that's just so awkward. I'm like, you got to know they're talking about you the second you come up, and everyone just splits and like they change the subject. Like, I'd
Yeah,
just be like, I quit. Like, I can't do this. It's so obvious they don't like me.
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. That would like secondhand embarrassment almost killed me on that one, but it's fine.
Yeah, I felt so bad. I'm like, oh, that sucks so much because I'm sure like everyone can sort of relate having experienced something like that where like you go up to people and then they just stop talking or they change the subject.
Yeah, so
So at least Chanel but got safe though. She can still work on getting those inroads throughout these next few days. We also see Romeo, he wants to get the smaller people together. So he's basically saying he lists like, oh, Chanel, Lydia, Tori, all of us are like quote smaller, quote weaker. So we should get up together. Talks about, oh, the alpha men are getting together. We don't like that. We need to vote them out. And so it's sort of interesting. Romeo is sort of in with the smaller people who are like all of the people sort of left out of the vote.
yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting like thing. Like if Drea and Romeo like are still close, I feel like Drea would have, even if he's not like officially in the alliance, like at least told Romeo like, hey, this is where we're going. So
And maybe she did, but maybe she said, hey, to, I guess, give the illusion that we're not as close. You still vote how you were voting the first time, but hey, this is the plan. Just giving you a heads up that your plan isn't going to work. Like there's a bigger thing going on here, which maybe that happened, maybe it didn't. We didn't see it on the episode.
yeah, I wish like I would like to see more of it. So
2 hours isn't enough, but the potential people to get voted off, we see Romeo wants to vote out Jonathan as the big dude, and Jonathan and Lindsay are pushing for Marianne to get voted out, which I thought was interesting. Like, why would they pick their own, like, OG orange person and not pick Lydia to begin with?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, obviously Lydia isn't going to pick herself. But I mean, it could just be that like Jonathan and Marianne have more beef than they want to like fess up to. Maybe Jonathan wants to give the impression that the Orange Four aren't as close. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, Lydia's in the 8 technically, so maybe they didn't want to flip on the 8. This flip on the 8 this soon kind of thing and putting out Lydia's name because like we saw, you know, Omer's talking with Lydia. Lydia doesn't even really say she wants to flip on the 8, and then Omer sort of twists her words and says Lydia wants to flip on the 8. We need to vote her out kind of thing.
Yeah, Omer was really like working the social game. I feel like this vote happened entirely because of him. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially because he didn't have a vote this episode, where we saw some conflict here because Chanel didn't tell Omer that he didn't have a vote because of the time they went to the Shipwheel Island together, which was another bad thing for Chanel. First bad thing is having everyone walk away from you when you're trying to talk to them. Second bad thing was, why didn't you immediately go up to Omer? They both lost the Applebee's challenge, so they had that time back at camp together. Why not pull him aside and like give him a heads up? Hey, I'm so sorry. Fake it. Even if you're not sorry, just say you're sorry and say, hey, I risked my vote. This is a heads up. You won't have a vote at this tribal. I'm really, really sorry. We had a miscommunication at the Shipwheel Island. Like, FYI kind of thing, because having Omer hear that he doesn't have a vote from someone else, it's just not a good thing.
Yeah, but Omer, I feel like, handled it like a boss. So he just kind of like realized what it meant for him and kept going. So
Which
good for
it's
Omer.
it's the interesting juxtaposition, because Omer controlled this vote without even having a vote. And a few episodes ago, with that tribal council where the potential rock draw was going to happen on green, Chanel had a confessional saying, I'm going to control this vote without even having one. So here, it's sort of like Omer did it correctly. Chanel didn't actually get her way with the like Lydia versus Jenny vote. And so I just thought that was wild. Like, Omer controlled this vote without even having one, after realizing that he didn't get a vote, without Chanel even telling him he didn't get a vote.
Chanel wants what Omer has.
Yeah, I'm like, this is how we think we're playing. And then Omer is what, like, Chanel is how we're actually playing. Omer is what we think we're playing in our head.
Obviously.
So we see Omer thinking, hey, I want to keep Jonathan around. He is my brain shield, or meat shield. I'm his brain shield. And he's like, why would I want to vote Marianne out? She has all of the goodies. She has the idol. She has the extra vote. I want to keep both Jonathan and Marianne around. Like, we shouldn't vote either of them out. So he wants to save both of his allies and thinks, hey, let's vote Lydia out. And so we see Omer telling Mike and Hai, Lydia's OG Green team, about voting Lydia out. And so people online are like, oh, why did Omer do that? But I personally think that going up to Mike and Hai and telling them the plan about Lydia actually is sort of good. Like, it could have backfired, but if it worked as it did here, you keep the majority 8, now 7, that Lydia got voted out, but you keep that Alpha Alliance strong, because if Omer just went behind OG Green's back, went behind Mike and Hai's back, and left them out of the vote, and instead brought in like Tori and Romeo and all of those other people that weren't in the majority alliance, then like Mike and Hai are going to be so pissed off and have more incentive to flip on them next week. But now at least bringing them in gives that sort of cover of, oh, we are still an 8, even if they're not really an 8, but you have that facade that the 8 is strong.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Just I thought it was a good move for Omer.
Yeah, like, it could have backfired, but Omer is safe because of the hourglass twist, which I think that is the problem for Hai trying to get the vote off of Lydia, because maybe Hai could have gotten Mike and broke up the majority 8 alliance, and instead, like, Omer could have went to the small person alliance, I don't know, the minority alliance here, and you would go to those people like Romeo, Tori, and them, and then maybe bring them in to save Lydia. But because Hai considers himself a target, like he said, he considers himself one of the stronger people, the bigger athletic people, then if he aligns and votes out Jonathan or Marianne as one of the athletic people, then, you don't have that shield anymore.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because like several people have mentioned using Jonathan as a shield. And so I feel like he's ended up with more allies just because everyone wants to use him. And I wonder how that's going to work out for him and for everyone else.
Yeah, he's meat shielding for everyone.
Yeah.
Which I also think for Hai, like, this was an uphill battle because Omer was safe from the hourglass twist. Hai is up for elimination because he was on the winning team originally. For Hai, like, for Omer, it couldn't really backfire on him. Omer didn't really have anything to lose if he didn't get the vote flipped onto Lydia. No I guess, all loss because he would lose either Jonathan or Marianne. But if he does get the vote flipped to Lydia, it's all win because he saves either Marianne, both of Marianne and Jonathan. But for Hai, like, if Hai goes to people and he's like, we need to save Lydia, we're voting Jonathan or Marianne, people might be like, no, we don't want to do that. Omer or Hai, why are you flipping on the 8? And if Hai is pushing too much, he could have easily got the votes flipped off of Lydia onto him because he's up for elimination, versus Omer didn't have that risk of being up for elimination. So he could push more, versus Hai couldn't really push as much, I feel like, because he could have easily gotten the votes flipped on him by being too pushy.
Yeah, and I feel like it's bad for Hai because it definitely might make people question his loyalty, but also when you're in an alliance of 8, I feel like it's better just not to rock the boat.
I agree. So people online are thinking, this was a super bad move for Hai. I think time will tell. I feel like for Hai, like you're saying, you can't push rock the boat too much. And I agree. Like here, especially at the merge boot, he's going up against a majority alliance of 8. He could be the person that flips on it and then causes all of those fractures. Or I feel like you have to lose some to win some. You have to lose your alliance member in Lydia here to go further forward. Like if you're being too pushy, you could be the next person to go. If you're being too pushy, you could have been voted out this time because people are like, why are you pushing so hard for Lydia, kind of thing. So I feel like now without Lydia, Hai could easily fade into the background. He doesn't have that strong duo perception anymore because it seemed like everyone knew that Hai went to Rocks for Lydia as a twosome. So now I feel like Hai could be sort of a lone wolf and charge forward.
A free agent, some might say.
Yeah, I think you have to lose some to win some. He lost to Lydia, but he can charge
Lose the
forward
battle
now.
to win the war.
Yep, exactly. So I didn't think it's such a bad move. Like we saw Romeo lose Zach in episode 1. Sometimes you have to lose, an ally if people are going in that direction.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, we got the tribal council. The votes come out 6 for Lydia, which was the majority 8 alliance plus Marianne. So maybe Marianne is part of the majority 7 now. Maybe she's the 8th person, or she was just brought in because Omer told her. We'll see next week whether Marianne is in the majority alliance or not. But 6 for Lydia was Hai, Jonathan, Lindsay, Drea, Mike, and Marianne. 2 for Marianne was Romeo and Lydia, and then 2 for Jonathan was Tori and Chanel. So you can see Tori, Lydia, Romeo, and Chanel are sort of out of the loops here. And then 1 for Lindsay, spelled Lynze from Roxroy.
Oh, Roxroy, learn how to spell.
I think this is interesting. So Hai says, love you, Lids, when Lydia gets voted out and she's getting her torch snuffed. So I wonder, because Roxroy was gone for 2 days, he only came back here. He has to learn, 9 people's names, 8 people's names. There's
You
a lot
think
of
he mixed up Lydia and Lindsay?
Maybe. If people are calling nicknames, if they're calling Lydia Lids, that sort of looks like Linz, how he spelled it, right?
That's true. But I feel like that's something you'd clarify if you were unsure.
You'd think maybe, but it's Lindsay. I've never seen anyone spell Lindsay like that.
I don't know. But it does not bode well that the minority alliance couldn't even pick one target though. Because I feel like if they can't marshal some resistance, then they're just gonna get steamrolled.
Yeah, Tori or Chanel could easily be voted off next time if this 7-8 person majority alliance sticks together. I need Roxroy to do an exit interview with what is this? Was it Lids like Lydia, or was this his spelling of Lindsay?
Who knows?
But I also want to see the pre-jury reactions of everyone. So I wish they did a pre-jury Ponderosa, because I really would want to see Jenny's reaction to Daniel going there, and then Jenny and Daniel's reaction to Lydia being the last pre-jury person. I just want to see their faces, because their faces are probably so good. They went through all of that BS at that tribal council rock draw potential, and then those 3 are voted out pre-merge or pre-jury.
Yeah. I don't know though. Like, I think it's just next week will definitely show how well or poorly like people are reacting to this big alpha alliance and everything. So
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Maybe they don't even realize that something's coming up to create like a counter alliance, counter faction. But it seems like Romeo wants to gather people to go against it. It's just, do they even have the numbers? Like, there's not
I
that
guess
many people.
I guess we'll have to see, just because I could see people realizing, like, oh, in an alliance of 8, if I'm number 8, I should probably jump ship now. But
I think it's also interesting how basically all of the advantages are clustered in the majority alliance. So it's sort of like if you flip on the majority alliance, you could get idled out. People might come for you because they have all of the goodies this season. So it sort of puts the minority alliance here at a disadvantage because you can't even like idle the majority out because you have no goodies. Like all of the goodies are concentrated with these athletic people. So it would be interesting because I feel like if you were in that situation, you might be scared to like throw Jonathan under the bus because then maybe Marianne plays the idol for Jonathan. Like it could be a whole advantage train, advantage get in happening because you're trying to go for someone in the majority 8 when you're in the majority 8 already.
yeah, it could be something where people have to be creative or like split the votes or something, something, something. So I guess we'll have to see. It is interesting when like the powerful just stay powerful, but it's more interesting when the little guys get in a good swing.
Yeah, you don't want to pagonging, but I don't know. We'll see. All of the power is clustered right now, so we'll see if anyone can create a counter faction, which will be interesting if they can or if they can't.
Yeah, but I feel like the first vote, like after the merge, or in this case, like the merge, doesn't always, like, the alliances don't always stick. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's always fun. I always look forward to Wednesdays, and I always look forward to chatting with you every week.
Yes, I also look forward to Wednesdays. Let us know in the comments down below if you look forward to Wednesdays. Let us know who your MVP of this merge episode was. And also let us know, I don't know, what is your favorite dish at Applebee's if you've been there? And if you haven't, your assignment is to go to Applebee's in the next 7 days. So we will see you guys again next week with another podcast, and we'll see you.